Hello and welcome back to Cinnamon Sanctuary. Today we are making a Chinese takeaway classic, which is sweet and sour chicken. So please stay tuned if you want to find out how I go about making this. In terms of the ingredients, we'll be using about 600 grams of chicken thighs that have been diced, and I prefer to use chicken thighs as opposed to breasts because they are a lot juicier, and I just wash them and dice them up. We'll also be using about 1 cup of all-purpose flour, 3 tablespoons of brown sugar, about half a cup of cornstarch or corn flour, about 2 to 3 tablespoons of baking powder for the batter, so we'll be using that to mix our batter. And I'm using rice wine vinegar here, but any white vinegar will do in this case, but because this is an oriental dish, I just thought I would go with rice wine vinegar. And in terms of seasonings, very simple, some pepper and some Himalayan salt, and we'll also be using some pineapple to go into our sauce, the white of 1 egg, which will go into our batter and will kind of help bind it together. And I'm also going to be showing you, so we're going to be using pepper, and I won't use a whole pepper for each. I think I'll cut them all in half and then dice them up, and 1 onion. A very important ingredient to add will be the tomato ketchup, of which we'll be using about 3 tablespoons. To begin, we're just going to season our chicken with a bit of salt and pepper, mix it up nicely and set aside to marinate for approximately 20 minutes. While the chicken is marinating, I'm just going ahead and prepping my vegetables for the sauce. So I'm just about to dice up 3 types of bell pepper, so red, yellow and green. And as mentioned earlier, I'll just be using half of a red pepper, half of a green pepper and half of a yellow pepper, and dicing them up and set aside for later on. I'm also prepping up about half an onion, which I'm just going to slice in big chunks to add to our sauce later on. Now I'm going to add and combine all of the constituents that are going to form the basis of the sweet and sour sauce. So I'm just adding about 3 tablespoons of tomato ketchup, and I'll also be adding 3 tablespoons of the rice wine vinegar. We'll also go in with the sugar as well as about half a tablespoon of soy sauce. This was actually my first time making sweet and sour sauce, and I was really surprised to find how easy it seems to make. There's not many ingredients needed. And at this point, I was actually starting to smell the sweet and sour smell that you might be familiar with if you've ordered this as a takeaway in the past. And yeah, I was quite pleased with the end result, but it's nice to know that some of these dishes are not as difficult to make as they may seem. Now we can go ahead and make our batter for the chicken. So I'm just going to combine the plain flour, the corn flour, as well as the baking powder and the white of 1 egg. So we can just combine this together and mix it up. And I wanted to make sure that the batter was not too runny. So I added the water in increments as opposed to adding it, all in one go. And the recipe called for 1/3 of a cup of water to this, but I ended up adding a little bit more. But as usual, I'll put all the ingredients and the listings in the description box. So I'm just combining the flour and water mixture, and as you can see, I'm going to end up adding a lot more water than that. I think I went in with another 1/3 of a cup. This is the consistency you'll be looking out for. You want the batter to be not too runny and slightly thick. Now that the chicken is marinated, we can go ahead and fry it in our batter. So I'm just dropping all of the chicken pieces into the batter, and I'll have to ensure that it's nicely incorporated, after which we can drop them into our hot oil, which is heating up on a medium to high heat. And I decided at this point that I'm going to fry the chicken twice to ensure extra crispiness. And the way we'll go about making this is we'll drop the chicken into the oil for the first time and let it fry until it's about 90% done, at which point we can remove the chicken and leave it on a paper towel to reduce the excess oil, and then return the chicken back into the oil at a very high heat and let it fry for a further 20 seconds, after which we can remove it again, and this will just ensure extra crispiness. Our first batch of the chicken pieces is done. So these are nice and golden brown, but they're not entirely cooked because, as mentioned before, we'll be dropping them into the oil again at a later point to ensure crispiness. So I'm just removing this first batch and I'll be adding a second batch and remove. Batch number 2 is completed, and now I'm just about to increase the heat. So I'm putting the fire on very high, and then I'll be returning the chicken pieces that we just fried into the oil and let them cook for about 20 seconds, at which point they will be completely done. And these, honestly, you have to try it. Trust me, the chicken will be so crispy you won't believe it. It's the best way of frying chicken. This is so good. If you can resist the urge to snack on them, please do. It will be difficult, I can tell you that now. I think I snacked on about 5 of them before the end, but it was well worth it, honestly. So I just dropped a bit of sesame oil in the pan in my wok. And if you don't have sesame oil, that's perfectly fine. You can use any type of oil. And I'm also dropping my onion and letting them sweat on a very high heat for about 2 to 3 minutes. After this, you can add your peppers, which you can also let sweat for about 3 minutes. And reminding you, we're working on a wok and our heat is very high, and you just have to make sure that you cook them accordingly. And I didn't show it here, but I went ahead and added a bit of pepper because I thought, look, let me just add something. This doesn't need a lot of seasoning because the chicken is very well seasoned and the sauce is also quite flavorful already. So I just added a bit of pepper to my vegetables, and I just dropped the pineapple as well. So as you may have noticed, I'm dropping everything in stages because I find that the onion gives out the flavor, and then the peppers just need a little bit, I quite like them a bit crunchy in my stir fries, but if you want, you can add the onion and pepper together if you want the peppers to be a bit softer. So I just went in with the sauce as well, and we're just mixing this all up, and this is pretty much almost done. And the container that I used to make the sauce, I just rinsed it out with a little bit of water and added it back in just to create a bit more sauce and to make sure that we use everything accordingly. And at this point, I thought I would like this to be a little bit saucier. So if you prefer, you can double up the amount of ingredients that you needed to make the sauce. So if you want more sauce on this, you can go ahead and do this and just add it in. But if you like it this way, that's perfectly fine as well. In the end, I decided to make a little bit more sauce, and I added this because I wanted a bit more gravy. But it's entirely up to you. You can add as much or as little sauce as you would like. This completes our sweet and sour chicken recipe tutorial. These came out amazingly, honestly. The chicken tasted amazing. It's nice and crispy on the outside and soft on the inside. And here's just a bit of a zoom in to let you know, to show you exactly what it looks like. The pepper was nice and coated, so were the onions, and the pineapple was a perfect addition. You don't have to add pineapple actually, but I like them. I'm used to having them with pineapple and I think it works quite well, but you may omit them if you prefer. And I'm just about to plate this up, and we were going to enjoy this with some rice. This is perfect with egg fried rice, but I was just in too much of a hurry, so I just bought some rice and we just used that to eat for our dinner. So voila! I hope you enjoyed this. Don't forget to subscribe and leave a like if you enjoyed the recipe, and let me know what you would like to see from me. I'm open to suggestions. I'm just posting videos that I feel people might enjoy. But if you have any suggestions, do feel free to let me know. And I'll see you very soon on the next video. Thank you so much for watching. Bye.